Welcome to another Manor Lords guide, and this time there are so many new things to cover because we finally have access to the long-awaited updates. In this video, we'll review some of the most notable changes which will affect your gameplay right away. There are honestly so many changes and new additions, so let's get into it. The first thing to note is that the development tree has been completely revamped. I'll talk about that more in a bit, but for now you'll notice that many things which were locked behind a development point before are now available as standard options. For example, the charcoal kiln, orchards, and apiaries can now be constructed without any sort of prerequisite. The biggest change involved with the resources from these options is honey, which is no longer a separate building or a food source. Instead, honey is now a backyard housing extension and it is categorized as an ingredient. I've searched through everything, but I'll be honest, I still haven't figured out exactly what it's ingredient for, so this one is still a bit of an unknown at the moment. To continue on that, the next thing to look at a bit more is the orchards and the vegetable garden housing extensions. Everyone's favorite massive backyard gardens still exist, but they now cost regional wealth based on the size of the plot. So it's a bit more of an investment, but I think overall it will still be worth it to have a couple of large backyard plots for either of these options. The other big change is that there's now different variety options of vegetables to plant. Each one has a different price, yield, and growth rate. You'll see all of these options after you indicate that you want to build a veggie plot, which only costs a couple of planks to initialize. And same thing for the orchards, now you can choose between apples or fruit trees which have different prices and maturity rates. So this offers some new options for food variety in our towns. And if you hover over the food category on the main UI panel, you will see that there are actually several new subcategories of food available for basically everything that we had from before. The next thing you'll notice is that you will now need tools for the construction requirements of many of your infrastructure buildings. And furthermore, you'll need to keep a supply of tools available in your town in order to keep up with the maintenance requirements. If you select a production building such as your logging camp or saw pit, you will see a maintenance status on the UI. This will give you information on how many tools are required to upkeep the building. And if you hover over the question mark here, it'll explain what will happen if you do not upkeep the building. Workplaces may fail on their resource productions, or building like a church could completely collapse. So this is obviously very important to keep up with. Now let's move on to some other changes in the resource and production categories. You'll notice that certain resources now have subcategories. For example, stone from the traditional stone gatherer camp will now only yield rubble stone. But rough stone is needed for producing the stone bricks or dress stone, which is needed for the castle upgrades. Rough stone can only be obtained from a rich stone deposit, so unless you have access to that, you will need to expand into a region which has one or purchase them from trade. But you will also need the rubble stone for mortar, which is produced at a new building called the lime kiln. You can find that here under the industry tab. I'll have a separate guide specifically covering the castle planner and how to upgrade your manor utilizing all of the new features, so make sure to check that out here on the channel. So similar to the changes with stone, traditional hunting camps will now yield pelts, which are different from hides. Hides seem to only be available from the animal pens or butcher shop's backyard extensions, or of course from trade, which is always an option. Hides are required for producing leather, which is what I would previously recommend as an easy source to cover your initial clothing demands. This would be a huge concern, however the next topic is approval requirements. Level 1 houses no longer require clothing as an approval demand. This makes the startup requirements a bit more forgiving. So this means that as you're developing your town towards level 2 housing, you'll need to think ahead about either getting hides through livestock butchering, mass animal pens, or trade. Livestock also provide wool, which you can turn into yarn, so I think investing in sheep will be really good moving forward. The other option is if you get a region with good fertility, you can farm flax and produce linen, which is basically the same as it was before. You will end up needing any combination of these materials to be able to produce clothing options for your villagers, which will get consumed at the marketplace. The great thing here is that the updated UI information on each house and on the approval tooltip now provides more information to help us keep up with the requirements. Another significant change to take notice of is that trade values have been adjusted. The cost for most of the major trade routes have been reduced as a result of this, which is nice. But this is because most of the trade values for importing and exporting have been adjusted as well. Overall, it's not too much different in my experience so far. Charcoal, for example, doesn't sell for quite as much as it did before, but I'm still selling plenty of it and it's still really strong. But I have definitely noticed that the global market supply fluctuates much more frequently now. So anything that you're trading consistently will need to be closely managed if you want to get the maximum profits. and you can also keep your eye out for any deals that might be available with lower prices to import. Since there are so many different things that not every region can cover now, you might be on the lookout for rough stone, tools and iron, or clothing for example. Lastly, the regional tab and development tree. Pretty much disregard everything about the old development point system. The setup here has been completely revamped. Each available option comes with several benefits as well as a penalty, so this provides quite a bit of customization options now. You can really create some strong combinations taking into consideration the layout of your region if you look through all of the effects of each available option here. And it looks like there are still a lot more yet to become available. On top of that, there is the whole new environment tab, which will give you information about which biomes exist within your region. For example, this biome has mostly meadow and woodland, which offers benefits such as an increase to the growth rate of wild animals, berries, and mushrooms. You can hover over any of the connected affinities down here to see all of the benefits and how strong they are. These benefits will apply anywhere within the region and not just in specific areas. So the planning involved with your regional setup now has many layers of factors to consider. And the last tab over here is for the regional records. We already had access to the trade portion here, but now we have access to the resource portion as well. You can select any resource to see your stock, production, consumption, or overall balance here in the graph. And you can select from a variety of time frames to see the data for. Having all these additional tools available to help manage our towns is huge. Before we wrap up this list of notable changes with the new updates, let's take a special notice of the new game modes and maps that are available. I think I was only expecting 1 or 2 new maps to come with the new updates, but we actually have 4 new map options here. It's hard to remember now when the Germanic Valley was the only map available in the entire game. Now we have 7 total maps to choose from, and they're all spectacular. And on the map selection here, you can also now click and drag to pick your starting region. The immersive landscape and environment is still one of the best things about this game, and these additions do not disappoint. I definitely recommend checking out all of the maps because, like I said, they are great. You'll also notice 2 new game modes, both of which include the new enemy AI. Unlike the Baron, who is the off-map enemy, these are active AI which will build their own towns on the map. The combat engagements with these towns are still being tested, but they exist and you can watch them perform all the tasks in real time. This is just a list of some of the most notable differences that you'll most likely encounter very soon into playing on the new patch. Many of the core principles involved with the marketplace, logistics, and town-wide mechanics are still the same, but now there are just way more options and customizations involved. One last quick tip that I'll give here is that all of the UI panels and tooltips now have much more information than before. I highly recommend looking at all the categories of information that are displayed on basically everything. But there are even more factors which I'll continue to cover in more guides and update videos here on my channel. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think about these new updates, and don't forget to subscribe for all the best videos in Manor Lords. Thanks, and I hope to see you here on the channel. Peace!